Spider-Man No Way Home. Was it good? I'm Ravi, joined by Krishna and Arjuna, and we're going to figure that out here right now. We have Mr. Michael over producing for us. And before we kind of get into our outline and the whole run of show here, one question I have for both of you, Krishna and Arjuna. What emotions did you feel in that theater this morning at 6 a.m.?
In this theater specifically?
Yeah.
Annoyed.
Annoyed from Arjuna. Interesting. Krishna?
All of them.
All of them.
All the
I mean,
emotions.
I felt a bunch, but annoyed is the first one that came.
Is that because of the annoying buzzing noise?
Yes.
Yes. Holy Jesus. AMC.
Yeah, I was confused by that because it happened it started during
Pivotal
this one scene,
scenes.
and I was like, is that just like, Happy's like like inhaler
Sleep apnea machine?
Yeah.
I'm like this is a long gag for no one in this in the scene.
Yep.
But then Mary Jane says at one point, or MJ says at one point, what's that noise? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it is in the movie.
Oh, it's
Oh,
no,
we're fine.
yep.
We're fine. But it wasn't. It was
not that.
It was not in that.
At one point, because we're in a theater with a ton of people, right? Like we were lucky enough to get tickets somewhat reasonable time, I guess 6 a.m. on a Friday, opening day.
Somewhat reasonable.
Super reasonable.
Totally
super reasonable time. It worked for all of our schedules. But like the theater was packed obviously for 6 a.m., which was surprising. And when you're a group of people, you always like hope somebody else will like kind of like go and do whatever. And nobody was getting up. So I was ready to like poke Arjuna and be like, you've seen this movie. Go get this fixed for us. Like you can suffer. This is your second viewing.
Yeah, I honestly, I was not leaving that theater. I was
Same.
I'll put up with this noise. I'm not missing a second.
Well, that's the thing. It came back
Yeah, me
multiple
too.
times
Yeah.
throughout the movie. Which
Yeah.
I mean, I saw people get up and go.
yeah.
So
You
they
assume.
knew about it. They just didn't fix it all the way.
No, not at all. I'm glad it wasn't like a fire alarm situation.
Our producer thought it was the fire alarm.
I mean,
We're not leaving if there's a fire. We're staying here
okay,
to watch this movie.
real quick. We are not encouraging that if you hear a fire alarm, leave the fucking building.
Yeah.
Like it's what they're there for. It's not
But
like
leave your phone so you can record the movie.
that works too, and then you get to see it in your own
It's
time.
uploaded to the cloud, So even if the phone, doesn't make
He's
it
not
in the
wrong.
fire,
He's
you at
kinda
least
right.
get some more of the movie.
Oh man, I gotta say this. I saw this funny tweet, and it just goes like, I was watching a recording of No Way Home, and the person holding the phone turned around and said, "Whoa!" and ruined the movie. Like he's just implying like he was watching like a bootleg on my phone, and then he's like, "They ruined my movie experience by going." Whoa! It's like, I love it. I just love.
Jesus, like
just
come
love
It's a
on.
whole
movie-
market by itself,
I was like,
It's a bootleg iPhone.
You ruined my experience.
movie
Like, wait, what?
experience.
Well, actually, that's a good let's just jump into like some talking points here. Like I think right off the bat with the bootleg stuff and the leaking and TikTok, social media, and all that fun stuff, there were two pivotal scenes in the movie, two kind of like surprises that were leaked very, very early on, like well over a month ago. The one with Charlie Cox playing Daredevil, sitting at the table with Happy and Aunt May and Spider-Man, Peter Parker. That was leaked forever ago as a picture.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The picture of the three Spider-Men.
Oh yeah, I
Spider-Man.
did see that. Yeah.
That was also leaked a while ago.
We also got our trailer moment. Remember when the trailer dropped and
Yep.
we had Lizard with the face going back? We saw that now actually with Andrew Garfield.
And just to
Kicking
clarify
punching.
that, that wasn't an all like
Was it
worldwide trailer.
Brazil?
It was the Brazil
Right.
specific trailer for whatever reason. That one didn't have the face adjusted or removed or whatever. And that leaked everywhere online pretty early on and quickly as well. So a couple of like the big surprises were revealed to us out of context, obviously. Did that take away from the experience?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned at the top, this is my second time seeing the movie, and the scene. A spoiler alert, obviously. Just we should caveat all of this with
Spoilers.
major spoilers for this
I
movie.
mean, duh.
But the moment when Ned uses a sling ring and opens up the portal right to Spider-Man, and you see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man through there. We had the reaction in the theater too, but it's just a special moment. Like the way they did it, we've talked ad nauseum on this podcast specifically how the modern day blockbuster is so fast paced. Everything is fast. This movie like took its time with a lot of these delicate scenes and let them breathe and made them really impactful scenes. And that was like another scene where they brought Garfield in. They had like a conversation that felt, as real as a superhero movie, I suppose, can be. But it was a fun moment, and it was special, and it just hits. It hits every time, even if you know it's coming or have an idea that it's coming. It's kind of special. Where you're like, oh, they actually did it, because like you see the leaks and everything, but you still weren't like 100%
right. It's out of context when you see those leaks.
Right,
You
exactly.
don't know if it's going to be good even.
Yeah,
Like,
it could be terrible.
We talked about like, is it going to be a cameo?
Yeah.
We don't know. Like that might be it.
Yep.
They just show up at the last battle, or it's an after credit scene, or something.
The way that the other Peter Parkers show up, I think they did it very, very beautifully, like very, very well, especially after like, the death of Aunt May. It's emotions, everything are building to a very high point. And most movies, right, they'll have the big high point and then they just kind of let it drop and then move on essentially as quick as possible. This just kind of kept going and going. And I relate it to the only other time, and I'll admit this, the only other time I like legitimately teared up in the theater, which was during Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf falls to his death in Helm's Deep, because that was another scene where it would. Oh yeah, big spoiler by the way.
Gandalf dies.
Oh yeah, and Snape kills Dumbledore.
No!
Anyway, also
worry, he
Vader.
comes back.
Vader is I was gonna say Han's father, but that's not true.
Next,
Luke's
you're gonna
father.
tell me Frodo destroys the ring.
It does. Fuck. But like that scene in Lord of the Rings, again, it builds. It's this big emotional drop. And it continues, right? Like when they're running out of Helm's Deep and Aragorn's telling them, like, keep moving, keep moving. Same thing happens where, Peter, how do we say this? MCU Peter Parker is devastated. And then, he sees MJ, his friend Ned, and then the other two Parkers come and, like, talk him through what they've suffered. And then that in itself makes you remember those, emotional scenes for them. It was good. It was like, wow, okay, fuckers, way to make emotions be felt.
It was legitimately beautiful.
Yeah, I hate it.
I think for me, the biggest question going into this movie, right, was
How dare it?
is it going to be overstuffed, right? How do you incorporate all these Spider-Men
And villains.
all of these villains,
Yeah.
all of these story threads, Doctor Strange, right? And I think the concern was like, it's going to be tough, right? Like, Infinity War and Endgame are very popular movies and they're very enjoyable, but some of those characters get rushed, right? Because there's so many characters in it.
Or they have really stupid team-up shots for the sake of having
And
team-up
right,
shots.
and you're like, oh man, is that
Endgame
what's-
with all
is
the
that
female
what could
characters.
potentially happen here, right? And I think they honestly nailed it, just in terms of like actually balancing out the emotional beats and building off of the 20-year cinematic, history of Spider-Man. Like they really drew from all of these movies and everything before, but didn't really just. They could have brought them back, right, and completely ignored what they went through, but they really leaned into their histories and what they've done, and I thought it was be very enjoyable.
It wasn't like a gag.
Right.
Yeah.
You know how like some appearances they're just there for like shock value.
Yeah.
Like
or just
Tom,
like a fun, or like a fun
Tom
value.
Hardy and Venom, perhaps.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, just like that for fun, right? This was like it was like a very important moment when they came in, and the emotional arc was chef's kiss.
I learned recently with Chef's Kiss.
Oh no,
You don't actually
You're gonna ruin it. Aren't
you don't have to actually say it when you do it.
Christian's the only person I know who says chef's kiss.
Granted, I do
He's
it
done,
too.
he's
I've done it as well. And somebody told me
that's
like
right.
you
guys
don't
are
actually
weird.
have to like say it if you're doing it. Granted, this is a podcast, so how would you see
That's
it?
true. That's
Oh,
true.
how would you
Haha.
see it? Yes, when you tune in live on Fridays to our pod on youtube.com/was it good.
And you can watch all of our episodes.
Be sure to subscribe there because we are 6 away from hitting 200. And there's a cat now in the
Hello,
room.
Megatron.
The mic's definitely picked up that meow.
Probably.
I hope someone comments. It's like wrong movie. That's Transformers.
So, Arjuna, you said, this was very well done, beautiful. Krishna, if you were kind of going to go off of that and give your own, like, one-word impression, what would you give?
Heart.
Heart.
Yeah. It was
Like
just a
Yu-Gi-Oh.
lot of
Heart of the cards.
Heart of the cards. Yeah, exactly. No, this movie was just from the beginning to the end was just full of heart. Everything from the performances, the writing, everything was just like it was done like with a lot of emotion. At least that's what I thought. That's what the feeling I got. Like wonderful pacing. And again, like I said, I think I felt every emotion during that movie. Like even when Tom Holland's Peter Parker is about to kill Green Goblin with his own glider. You can see that rage, right? That whole scene, even the scene right before that, when he's just punching the shit out of him. All that rage coming through that, and I could feel that. And I was like, yeah, you get him. You know, you could sympathize.
I mean, shout out to Tom Holland. Like,
Jesus.
You know, I think that was another concern, right? Like, you're gonna have all these Spider-Man and all these villains, and it's like, oh, could that overshadow the lead of the movie? And I thought he did an incredible job, still being the anchor and the lead, and really carrying a lot of that movie. Not to say no one else did, but. He did
what he had to do.
Yeah,
which should carry the movie,
right.
like
but him
be the foundation.
and William Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
What did I say?
William.
It is William.
It's
No,
Willem.
Willem.
Yeah.
Willem.
This is mind blowing to me.
There's a How I Met Your Mother thing all about it. You just rewatched that recently, where
that was like a year ago.
Where Marshall is like, if you say Willem Dafoe's name, it's like a frog. It's like Willem. Dafoe.
That's right. Okay,
What?
my bad. So Willem Dafoe, I think, and Tom Holland did really, really well together, playing off of each other, and also the fact that like Dafoe came back for Green Goblin. I don't know if you guys watched any of the interviews that Dafoe did, but he, I'm paraphrasing here. He basically was like, when they approached me, he was like, yes, 1,000%, because he really enjoyed portraying that character of Green Goblin.
Yeah.
It's iconic. It's
very iconic.
It's truly, people were debating recently about who is like the greatest villain for each Spider-Man, right? And so, a lot of people love Doc Ock and Alfred Molina, right? And people were like, oh, he's the best. And Molina's great. Don't get me wrong. He's probably the second best Spider-Man villain. It just happens to be he was preceded by the greatest in Willem Dafoe. And I thought that was honestly a nice surprise with the movie. I think based off the trailers, right? I think you assumed, Molina's going to be the main villain, right? But I thought it was not like.
Turns out to be an ally.
It turns out to be an ally, and I thought like Dafoe, it was a delight that he was such a big part of the movie, because I wasn't sure based off of the trailers like how much he was going to be in the movie, or if he was going to be more treated like Sandman or Lizard, where it's like he's under a mask the whole time and he's kind of far away,
right?
So that was also like another pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Do you have a one-word impression for this movie?
So if Christian's was heart, mine would be fun.
Heart.
It was no. I think what this was a really fun movie experience, and we've obviously been to a few movies now in the pandemic time, but I can't. It's been a long time, I think, since I've had this much fun at a movie, right? And this is a movie that is meant to be seen with audiences and meant to be seen in crowds, and it really felt like it kind of serviced that a lot.
Yeah.
And that just ups the enjoyment for me. It's just kind of having that energy around you of people who appreciate Spider-Man and the history of Spider-Man, and it's great. It was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Fun.
So Christian's is heart, Drew's is fun for one-word impressions. Mine then has to be logically. I actually don't have one.
It should be I. I heart fun.
No, actually, no. I thought you said high, so I'm going to go with high.
What?
My one-word impression is high.
Like wait, which high? Like high or I'm high?
I'm
or
high.
Like just high.
HIGH. High.
Oh. You riding the high right now?
Yeah, basically, and I think like high, hype, whatever you want to call it, but like there was a lot of hype and build up to this event, essentially, right? Some would argue like after Endgame, we went to a goddamn pandemic, right? And then things
we had Far From Home.
We had Far From Home, true. But like in terms of like these big build-ups and things, Endgame, sure, there was Far From Home where everyone was like, oh, what's going on? And then it was pandemic time. And then, we're not out of it. We're not out of a pandemic. We are somehow still kind of scuffling along, somehow going to theaters, trying to be as safe as possible to do this. But to Arjuna's point, like being able to see it in theaters, being able to see it with other people, I think, it adds to this whole build up and hype and everything around it. And just, yes, I think the movie makes you high.
Yeah, I'm riding a high right now.
Yeah, same. I mean, the fact that we were up at like 4:35 a.m.
That might be something to do with it.
Yeah. Lack of sleep.
Again, I've seen the movie and I went to bed last night like excited, like it was like Christmas.
Same.
Wow.
I was like, oh, this is exciting.
It's exciting. Yeah.
It's like it's fun to see the movie. It's fun to see the movie with people that you know.
Yep.
and like see their reactions and stuff. So like just sitting, like I sat between Krishna and Michael, and so I was just kind of like
all the times I did this.
Yeah, dude, I heard you breathe.
Heavy breathing.
Yeah. I thought you started crying at one point. You wiped it. Looked like I thought Michael was crying at one point. You did wipe away a tear, right? Yeah, I was like, holy shit!
Like right when I think Aunt May got hit, I was like, I leaned back, I was like, oh man, she's gonna be the Uncle Ben. I was like, oh,
I think that's where she sustains the injury, not the bomb.
Yeah.
When she gets hit by the glider.
Oh yeah, definitely the glider. Yeah, because I mean,
because Peter was kind of
Peter took
right?
deflected majority of it.
Yeah,
shout out to Spider-Man 3. Is that the shot with the pumpkin? Where Harry gets the pumpkin in his face?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then that's the other thing I love too. Like you had the obvious callbacks, but you also had the creative ones. You had a lot of the music cues from the original movies and the Amazing Spider-Man movies. You had some of the visual cues as well, which I mean, it's great. It was really like I think Christian, you said it, like a love letter, just made with a lot of like heart.
The only thing I wish that they somehow incorporated, and I know it would have just come off as cheesy as fuck, but the emo dance from Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire.
I totally forgot about that. How could I forget about that?
It would have been cool to see, but again, like in the context in terms of like when these Spider-Men show up and what's going on, it would not played out appropriately at all. It would have made no sense.
And I think that's what was nice too. Like everything they did, even if it was if it was some type of tribute or something that was a wink or not, it made sense within the context of the movie. And that's the way to do it, right? It's not just trying to like jam it in necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked how like each Spider-Man represented like a different not just obviously a different aspect, a different multiverse, a different history, different set of characters or whatever, but like just a different time in his life. Tobey Maguire is clearly the older, wiser Spider-Man.
40s, I would assume.
He's been through some stuff,
possibly has kids, because there's that whole discussion between him and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Spider-Man. And he says like MJ and I were figuring it out. And there's like
complicated, but we made it work.
Yeah. Like so I feel like they've kind of left it, because Arjuna, like you think I said this before the pod, right? Like there's a possibility that Andrew and Toby aren't done as Spider-Man.
I mean, look. These studios make these movies to make money, right?
What? No.
I thought it was for love.
Oh my God.
I take back my one word impression.
I thought it was for the art.
And look, Sony is building out their own villain-verse, right? Spider-Man villain-verse with Venom. You have Morbius. You have a Kraven the Hunter movie coming.
Oh God.
So they're doing that type of stuff, and you figure at some point they will need a Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, for something.
Right? Yeah. And maybe instead of using Tom Holland, they could bring back one of these guys potentially, especially because it just seems like
Andrew Garfield.
It seems like there's going to be a lot of positive reception, and has been for these guys. And obviously, it depends on if they're game and how they want to do it. But
are they legally allowed to? Sony?
They own the rights. They own the rights to those.
As long, and again, I might be incorrect in saying this.
So Marvel. So how it works with the deal is, Sony still owns Spider-Man. So if actually Sony wanted to, they could put Tom Holland in the Venom movie if they wanted.
If they
still wanted to. Now, does it make sense continuity wise? Probably not. And they probably haven't done that because they don't want to confuse audiences and then sabotage what they have built with Disney. But Sony still owns all the rights to Spider-Man and the respective Spider-Man characters, right? And so they have the rights to those Sony Spider-Man movies that they made. So technically, all that they could throw Toby and Andrew in, and there's actually a story you could make it work story-wise.
But isn't it also that the part of the contract is that they have to make a Spider-Man movie or something every X amount of years, otherwise the rights go back.
Correct.
And Amy Pascal did say that there is a potential already for another trilogy of Tom Holland Spider-Man. So we're going to get more Spider-Man.
It's still all unknown. There's nothing official, at least. And I'm sure we'll get more info in the coming months after the movies come out of what the next plans are. Because if you think about it, and it's crazy to think about, Far From Home only came out 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
It felt so much longer.
Right. But it was only 2 years. because we had a whole pandemic in the middle of that, and they filmed this whole movie in the pandemic.
That might be the most impressive part.
Because I mean, I'm a big stickler for CGI, and the only CGI that really annoyed me was the Defoe Tom Holland fight in the
beginning of it.
The beginning of it when they're in the condo. By the way, real quick, when they mentioned condo and they were doing that whole fight thing, all I could think about was, man, that HOA group, they're probably going to be like, fuck you, Happy, like get the hell out. Anyway, but that fight between those two, the CG, like Defoe at one point you said it was like entirely digital. He wasn't real.
He was digital.
It just looked really, really bad. So
that wasn't good. But I did like the second half of that scene where the Goblin takes Spider-Man and wrestles, basically just pushes him
Drops
through.
him.
So many wrestling moves in that fight between them.
could you
Even at
argue
the
that
end
this
as
is a
well.
wrestling movie? Then?
It kind of is. Yeah, I was like,
WWE,
Green
is
Goblin
that still a thing?
really practiced his wrestling.
It's ridiculous.
Good stuff.
Now-
Suplexes and all kinds
Now
of
it's
stuff.
time for our favorite section where Arjuna does a
man.
DVD chapter listing. As always, Krishna is going to read it, and I get to pick his voice.
Oh no.
Do Bane, because
No,
Tom Hardy was
no. We are going to do Goblin, the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I was thinking, is this
Has to be
there's only
Goblin, yeah.
one option
who we
for that.
choose to
We
be.
are who we choose.
Did you guys
to
like,
be.
real quick, did you guys like that they referenced that line where he talks about choice?
Yes.
It was great.
Again, it's a throwback to like
Yeah.
everything
Oh.
that we've seen.
Oh, yeah.
And
The best line though was when he's like, "I'm something of a scientist myself." I was like, oh man! And he's just leaning casually like against the wall. And
I mean, technically,
Tom Holland's like, "What the fuck?"
what's funny is 3 of those 5 villains were scientists. We're all doctors.
Yeah.
Dr.
so,
Connors.
so it's really
Dr.
not.
Otto.
It's really not Spider-Man that causes all this tragedy. It's science.
It's science. Yeah.
Science is the real villain. Don't listen to science.
Don't-
Oh,
Oh.
dear.
We take
Oh,
the
dear.
quick strike that from the record.
All right, Christian, let's hear it.
Okay,
As
choose DVD chapter listing as Green Goblin. We are who we choose to be. I need video of Spider-Man, the devil of Aunt May's kitchen. No school for you, Sorcerer Weenie.
Because he's not Supreme anymore, so he's Weenie.
No,
He's
I
a
love
weenie.
it. I love it. Doc Ock stole my thesis. Magical wedding.
Webbing.
Webbing. Oh yeah, there's no wedding. Webbing. Magical webbing. Do not, Goblin.
Donut. Do nut.
Do
Oh
not.
my God.
Do not.
What is this?
Awful.
I can explain it. if
Were you
want.
tired when you wrote
No.
this?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but
Yeah.
no.
The Spidey Six.
Got it?
My
Yes.
tingly is tingling. With great power comes great death.
Oh my God.
Shit. I mean, that's actually true as well. Spideys unite. Let's science the shit out of this. Andrew, you're amazing.
I did like that. Like,
Just the
you're
meta
amazing.
commentary.
Say it. Just say it. You're
Yeah.
amazing.
Hey, fuck the people.
Yeah, you're amazing. The Spider-Man band. Don't you forget about me.
You gotta sing it, though. Don't you?
Forget
No, but you have to do it
about
as the Goblin.
Oh, I can't. Don't even know how we would sound singing. Don't you know?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good. That was it. That was good. That was like right
Venom
there.
is live.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I've had that one since Monday.
Oh, you knew that one. A second movie.
Oh man, Venom is Life is by far the best thing you've
Venom
ever.
is live.
Venom is Life.
I'm glad you picked that one.
You need to just clip that out and just send that to Lauren.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was good. That was not your best. Not your best.
Venom's life is
No,
yeah,
yeah,
Venom is Life is by far your best chapter.
Andrew, you're amazing.
Title
was,
is great.
Was perfect.
But clearly you were tired.
yeah.
with
Let's
great
science the
power
shit out of
comes
this.
great death.
But
That was good.
what's interesting
The
though with
devil of
this
Aunt May's
DVD chapter listing, just like the movie, it got better, right? From the beginning to the very end. You know, your chapter listing got better in part because the movie got better, right? Compared to, you know, other Marvel properties where, you know, starts off really cool, really unique, and then there's the clusterfuck of the battle at the end.
The
and
last
then,
third is usually weak. Yeah.
yeah, and we're waiting for the after credit scene.
Right,
Yeah.
the second act is normally the best. You get some revelations. You're like, holy shit. And then it just kind of falls.
The final battle, which this had as well, but there was still emotion.
But let's talk about the final battle, specifically the location of the final battle.
New York.
And more specifically, What idiot thought it would look cool to have a giant shield on the Statue of Liberty?
This world that loves Captain America.
I get that, but it was like when it was at the very end when it comes crashing down, it's like you're looking at it like that was probably not the smartest idea
Right, yeah.
ever.
There is so very minor spoiler for the episode 5 of Hawkeye.
Yep.
But a character does mention wanting to see the new Statue of Liberty with the shield on it.
Oh, that's
right?
cool.
So it is like a thing. It's probably just obviously to be a tribute to Captain America. He's
Right.
a fallen Avenger at this point.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to kind of spoil it. We're talking about Hawkeye episode 5. Well, not that it's like a big spoiler, but
or is it a big spoiler?
potentially
Because
they're big.
it's big.
It's a big guy.
It's a big guy.
But I just want to talk about more of the time frame of things because there was a lot of there was confusion around when Hawkeye is, when is Spider-Man, and to clarify, so now we kind of have a better idea of where all the time frames line up. So this movie starts at the very end of Far From Home,
Right.
where Peter realizes he's been outed by J. Jonah Jameson as being Spider-Man, and then it fast forwards a couple months, and then by the end of the movie, we are at Christmas time, which actually aligns with when Hawkeye is taking place.
Yes.
Potentially, this one's probably maybe a week or two. It would look like before Hawkeye because Hawkeye is right at Christmas.
Right.
So I guess then in theory, the shield by that point could have been put back up on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, I would assume so. Otherwise, it's a continuity error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So that's interesting. What was the other thing I wanted to ask about? There's so many things I want to ask about. Well, yeah. What do you think he's gonna do for Christmas now that he's all alone?
He'll
Peter
probably
Parker.
just like beat up people.
Yeah, solving crime.
Do you think he won't hold his punches?
He'll.
I don't
hold
think
his
he's.
punches.
I don't assume he's rageful at this point.
Well, it's because of Papa Peter Parker.
Yeah. Toby.
So I don't know if you guys remember when like Homecoming was filming, but there was like a whole internet movement to cast Tom Holland. Not Tom Holland. To cast Tobey Maguire as Uncle Ben.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, and people were like, he should be Uncle Ben.
I mean,
Then
how
he can die.
how he portrayed
Peter in this.
yeah,
it was
that
very Uncle Ben-ish.
Perfect.
Yeah, he was the mentor. Yeah. Yeah, you could totally see that influence and everything, and it was cool. And I think, like you guys said earlier, it's just cool to see the Peters at different points in their lives.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting, like especially how they introduced them, because when they introduced Andrew, he was in the Spider-Man garb, so he's really leaned into being Spider-Man
Right.
at this point. And you see Peter, and you see Toby's Peter, and he's in his regular.
Trying to blend in.
Civilian, and it seems like he's leaning more into being Peter Parker. And the whole central Doctor Strange, this whole thing in the first third of the movie is like you're living these two lives and you can't choose, what you're going to be. So it feels like they were kind of showing that a little bit with those characters and what they're doing.
I love that.
And so I think with the end of this movie, as you talked about, it'll be interesting to see where they take Peter and Spider-Man if they do more movies. With Tom Holland and whatnot, because they could go in 100 directions. Like if they wanted to, like move on and do a Miles Morales, like they could technically kill this Peter off and do Miles now if they wanted, or they could
Have
really
both.
do anything.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing that the MCU is showing us and will continue showing us is that the story as a whole is moving forward.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're never locked in. Like
Correct.
it's never locked into like they can only do one thing.
They can do anything they
do
want,
a lot
which is awesome.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about Toby and Andrew's performances as Spider-Man and their characters, but let's move into the villains. And I think the one villain that's struck me the most in terms of change of character and just was a joy to see was Jamie Foxx as Elektra. And specifically his relationship with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was to me very, very funny, very, very hilarious because they know each other obviously from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. But the line that stuck out the most was when he said to him, you're from Queens. You're helping out. You're helping out poor people. I figured you were black. Like that. Like I don't know why. It was just. It felt very real. Yeah. And
And then he said, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there." Somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
Which
a
was
wink.
which
That
was
was a
aw-
wink.
which was awesome to like hear and like see and like I don't know, just it felt more grounded, that whole conversation, because a lot of times with they're superhero movies, for fuck's sake, like there was a purple moron trying to annihilate everything.
It was surprising to see Jamie Foxx be kind of the comic relief of the villains.
yeah.
Even though, he did have some, dramatic moments, and he was kind of like the one who seemed to be less inclined to go along with the plan at first. But he has some great lines. Like his realization when he died, he's like, "No, I was kicking his ass." And he's like, "No, oh shit. I was about to die.
I was about to die.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And also when he, shows up, he's like, "Is no one gonna address? No one's gonna say if I'm
naked."
butt ass naked."
Yep. Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm glad they were like Jamie Foxx agreed to jump back into it, came back. Like that was really, really nice to see as well.
Him and Melina ruined their involvement years ago.
Yeah, for them. Yeah, they did drop that a long, long time ago.
Melina did an interview where he's like, "Yeah, they probably don't want me to say this, but yeah, I'm in the movie."
Oh man,
That's me. And then Jamie Foxx tweeted, and I think did an Instagram story he was returning, and then deleted it a day later. He's like, "Oh shit." And he even told people, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be blue this time." He's like, "Fuck that."
Yeah, they did a panel style TV spot with the three of them, with Defoe and the other two.
Oh, that's so good.
And Jamie Foxx says that in the thing, he's like, yeah, they were asking about "Oh, what's it like to return?" And he's like, "I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad that I'm not fucking blue anymore."
So for the screening, they showed a special video right before with Tom Holland, Zendaya, and the actor that plays Ned being like, "Hey, enjoy this movie. Please don't spoil it," and whatever.
Yeah.
And then it ends with Jamie Foxx being like, "Yeah, don't spoil it." And Tom Holland's like, you're a spoiler, Jamie."
He's a spoiler as well. It's the kettle. I don't know. It's
That's great.
oh, that's hilarious.
So the one question that I have about the not to dive too much into the general plot, because once you start poking at the plot, you can bring the whole
There's a lot of logic.
the wonderful high that is this movie. You can bring it all the way down. But one thing that is bothering me, Doctor Strange puts out a spell. The spell originally was supposed to make everyone who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, that connection is broken and is forgotten. Okay. Spell doesn't work. It's kind of the reverse of that, where everybody across space-time and everything, anyone that knows that Peter Parker equals Spider-Man is pulled into this world from various time points, obviously.
Yes.
We are brought a bunch of characters who are dead from their timelines.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them, right? The ones being Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro,
Those are the three that are dead.
are dead.
But the other two, Lizard and Sandman,
They're alive and kicking.
at least in the movies, we did
Yeah.
not see them die.
So, Tom Holland, Spider-Man's entire kind of plot, if you will, for this whole thing is he doesn't want to send them back because he knows if they go back, they die. So his thinking is, if I fix them, Doc Ock's not evil, Green Goblin doesn't have the juice, Electro doesn't, shoot out electricity anymore. When they go back, they'll be okay. How does that work?
Which part?
The logical part, because they're pulled into this world and now they're sent back. But as Jamie Foxx says as
They're
Electro,
about to die.
they're about to die. So in theory, wouldn't they go back to the moments just before they die anymore?
You have to
With
assume-
no
but
powers.
with clean souls, so they go to heaven.
Yeah, they've been cleansed.
So my question is,
I think
is it a soul thing?
I think it's like the whole Infinity War Endgame thing, right? Where okay, logistically, if you click everyone back into being alive again, what does that mean?
Yeah,
how does it work?
Places are
Yeah.
different. How do you make sure everyone's in is it the exact same?
Well,
spot,
spoiler
or
again for Hawkeye. We do kind of see
right.
exactly what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, a little bit.
So,
But there's also, I think it's explained in something that Hulk made sure that people weren't in precarious situations or whatnot,
right, because it's thinking and then doing.
Yeah, so I mean, I would assume they're not put back in the exact moment, and there's some type of alteration and
Well, they have
Altercation.
the
Altercation.
Spider-Man, so they could just ask those two, please don't
kill these guys when
If
you
they're
get
dying by
back.
Spider-Man's hand, Spider-Man's hand.
Brings up the point, like, why try to fix them when you have the Spider-Man? Why not just be like, hey, when you guys get back, just don't kill them?
Because it's not just like they're taking them from their universe, it's also taking them from different time points in their universes too,
that's
right?
true.
So it's like if Toby goes back, Toby's Spider-Man goes back to where he was in his timeline, it's many years after
He's already killed
Goblin has
those
died
guys,
and Doc Ock has died. So it then in theory wouldn't be the same Toby that they're interacting with.
So it sounds like the way the spell worked is it took the latest version of that person that existed and brought them into the universe.
Well, but no, because if you think about Lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man 1, he gets cured at the end. So Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man even says, "Oh, I've made this before," right?
Yeah.
And that's
He's cured him before.
He's cured him before because that's how they cured him.
The last version of him
Of the
as a lizard.
version, right?
Well, but the problem to that though is this. Is the spell then working to the audience's favor in terms of when the audience members saw those?
That's exactly
because
what-
time,
that's
remember,
what it
is
is,
like
yeah.
this continuous thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if it's
Technically,
all space time, then you can pull them from any time.
what is it they say at the beginning of What If?
no
Space, time.
The
What
latest
if?
version of anyone is when they're dust.
So like, but so
Yeah.
who knows? Like, does that mean then like when Toby goes back to his universe, like
Again, we're poking so many holes.
Octavius and Osborn will be alive and like would have been alive that whole time, and he has new memories now
No,
that
no.
built off of
creates
that?
new timelines. So as we know, the timeline just creates new timelines and
multiverse.
you know who.
I think the
knows?
answer is they can make it work however they want to work if they ever revisit those stories.
This is Marvel's problem, and Sony would just want like this. It's like, we don't care.
It's like has anyone here seen the Simpsons movie?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So there's a part where they're going through like the sinkhole to get out, and Homer's like doing the middle.
Oh, yeah,
finger,
doing the middle
and
finger,
he
yeah.
gets stuck, and he's just like stuck. And he's just like,
And then they go and they beat his head.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are tons and tons of like holes and things and logic things that you can poke at this.
yeah.
And
Ned just being able to use the sling ring.
yeah, that whole thing.
He has what do you mean?
I
They have
mean,
magical blood.
Even the
Okay,
bigger.
but if you go back to Doctor Strange,
Why not bring him back sooner? As soon as you're like, hey, we should fix this. Why didn't they bring the wizard back right away?
There's so many.
There's
things
so
you
many,
have to
yeah.
suspend
And I-
They're
disbelief.
teenagers.
and I think
Aunt May's reason, you have to save them. You have to just save them.
well, that's because they had her homeless shelter organization
yeah.
feast that they were doing, and
is
that was like who she was as a person is
Yeah.
to be helpful, and I think that's.
I bought
That
that.
works.
Yeah,
I
that
think
works
that's
for me,
fine. Again, like we could sit here and like break down every single thing, but then all that does is at the very end we're just annoyed, probably with each other first and foremost, because we will not agree
Right.
on anything.
Like, why are those two people shoveling the snow in the
Actually,
sinkhole?
that's
Art.
very disturbing.
Art.
It makes it seem like they're under a spell.
Oh,
which
that's
means
the impression I got.
They're shoveling against their will.
So see, I looked at them; they're students.
oh, that
Just
makes
like
more
in a
sense.
monastery, like there would be
yeah, yeah.
students
They're
cleaning
acolytes?
and yeah, exactly. They're on the low totem pole, so they have to
They're going to be
clean.
part of
in
the
training.
Why not magic it away?
Because before you can use tools, you
gotta
need
learn
to understand properties.
Wax
Yeah,
on.
you got to learn. You got to learn
Wax off.
discipline.
But it was still melting
Properties.
away, and everybody was done cleaning it up. Like towards the end of the movie, like all that wood is surely ruined by
Magic
now.
will fix
they
that. Don't
can
worry.
they'll fix that with magic, but they got to do the labor. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, go to Home Depot. You're going to replace this. 2x4 by 2x4.
So obviously, at the end of the movie, Peter does the ultimate sacrifice, right? Or one of the big sacrifices. He doesn't kill himself, but he removes people's memory of Peter Parker, right? So for all
Some
intents
kind of death.
and that is in itself isn't the worst thing because Spider-Man is still known in the world. People know there's a Spider-Man. People know that Spider-Man helped
beat Thanos.
beat
was
Thanos.
there
That's all
for
there.
Endgame,
Peter
yeah.
Parker, though, is now starting kind of from zero. Like he is, for all intents and purposes, like a person that's off the grid. Right? We see him at the very end entering an apartment, even though he's happy, which is great. Smiling helps.
He's in an apartment. He's
Getting his
dropped
GED.
out of high school because
Yep.
he's taking the GED. He's studying for that, and it's implied, I guess, he's like Spider-Man full time now.
Yeah,
Kind of
He's
like
got a
where
new
Andrew
suit.
Garfield is.
yeah.
Full time.
So to a way, like this kind of, I would say, reboots Spider-Man to a degree, where
Yeah, a little
now
bit,
it can
yeah.
go completely in a new direction
if they want, yeah.
if they want.
They could do like This is convenient in a lot of ways because I think they did it this way because they didn't know would the Sony Disney relationship still continue on, right? And if it didn't continue, okay, well, Spider-Man's still around, but we don't know who he is, and so he doesn't need to be used in like MCU movies because he's doing his own small local, unattached
Friendly
thing.
neighborhood Spider-Man.
He's basically he could have. This could be the final goodbye to all of the characters he's ever met. Right? He doesn't need to interact with them ever again. Yeah, and that also helps Sony too, where like, okay, do we want to do more moves with Tom Holland? Obviously, yes, but can we get Zendaya back? Can we get the actor who plays Ned back? Can we get Jon Favreau back or whoever? Right? It's convenient where they can literally go in any direction and they're not bound to like, oh well, we couldn't get Zendaya back, so it's going to be a bad movie. It could just be explained as, I didn't want to put MJ in harm, so now I'm staying away from her, type of thing.
Which so he runs obviously,
and they're going to Boston anyway, so it's like they wouldn't necessarily be around his day-to-day life anymore. Jacob Batalon,
who plays Ned. And what do you think, based on what we saw, where he goes into the coffee shop and he sees Ned? He sees MJ. He tries to like tell her. He doesn't. What do you think do you think he is going to stay away, or do you think he's going to work on it?
Like Arjuna said, I think it really depends on. Let's see how this MCU.
Okay, better question.
What
does Krishna want?
What do I want?
Yeah, what do you want,
man? So part of me loves the idea. This the dark part of me loves the idea of Spider-Man separating from Marvel and going back to Sony, and then. Because it did wrap up such a beautiful way when Doctor Strange looks at him and is like, goodbye. That was a goodbye. There are tears in his eyes. It's like, everyone who loves you will not know who you are. Like, we will not know who you are.
It almost makes me feel like they're going to do Miles Morales in the MCU. That they'll do the traditional one, too, where Peter Parker dies, right? And because nobody knows who Peter Parker is, Miles can just become Spider-Man. And that no one would know that it's necessarily changed. They'll obviously have a new suit and whatnot.
But there is a Spider-Man running around,
Yeah. So actually our producer here doing some research. So it looks like Tom Holland does have one more movie crossover appearance confirmed.
Do you think it's Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse? Or across the Spider-Verse?
Oh, that'd be wild.
But because the one thing with Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse that they did say is they said that there will be different animation styles and more. Right.
And more.
Which could be live action.
Yeah.
Right?
Could be claymation.
Wallace and Gromit.
Da, 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 da.
No. Don't.
Real quick, I think we were either, what were we, drug high, just crossfaded, and we watched like a shit ton of Wallace and Gromit.
When we watched the cheese one.
Oh, but we kept watching all of them.
Oh, wow.
Like, we watched a lot of Wallace and Gromit.
They go to the moon to cut up.
By the way, Wallace is the guy, right?
Yeah.
Wallace is an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'm Team Gromit.
You don't realize that until you're an adult.
Yeah. You think he's just
an abusive relationship.
It's super abusive.
He's using his dog.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
They also have different jobs in every single short.
That's realistic based on how the economy in the world looks today.
And England.
Oh. Well, yeah. Actually, I can see that.
I don't know.
Wallace would definitely be like pro Brexit.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Well, this is a Washington.
Actually, can we? Actually, this ties back into Spider-Man nicely.
Oh, the teachers.
First of all,
yeah, Hannibal Buress.
They were great. All
had
three
the
of them.
different
Martin
like
Short.
Yeah. No. I actually want to talk J. Jonah Jameson, where he starts out when he reveals who Spider-Man is. He's very how do I put this? QAnon type individual, where he's like broadcasting clearly in his bedroom or room. Like, who does that?
Gets a full set,
and then he gets a full set because he has believers. Like, I like how they presented the Daily Bugle and J. Jonah Jameson, like they did it modern, which was very scary we see that shit all the time. What is that? Whatever.
O-A-N?
Whatever the fucking thing.
Look at the president from 2016.
Yeah.
I mean,
but geez Louise. Yeah, that was interesting. Again, like this movie did a good job of like tying it into modern day.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the traditional like this is the comic book world. It feels more in tune with what's happening in everyday life. So.
Real quick, I have to say one of my favorite lines is when Peter, Tom Holland's like starting to walk through the hallway, and you just hear Hannibal Buress go, "You know what you did." Nailed it. Like a conspiracy,
Conspiracy nut.
Mysterio
Yeah.
sympathizer, I
Yep.
guess. I liked how that carried over. That was, you don't always see that in Marvel movie, like previous movies having stakes in the current one, but obviously this movie, everything that happened in that last one set up everything in this one,
I did think that like Mysterio dying would be his reason for trying to save the villains, right? Because I thought like he might feel guilt that he died.
Or maybe that's part of it.
I
They
didn't
just
see
didn't
that.
show it.
If they was there, it was all in his head. And it was never expressed.
It didn't happen.
No,
But
I know.
I thought maybe that would be the direction they would go with it. Were you guys surprised at all? Speaking of villains, that they didn't bring any of his villains back. It was just Garfield's and just Tobey Maguire's villains.
No, because they would all be locked up.
Or dead.
That's true.
Like, why would
Yeah.
like the Vulture show up
Broke out.
all of a sudden?
Okay.
Like
no,
super.
he's in Morbius's, I don't know.
Well, we don't know what.
right.
So let's see. I think like the implications of what, like a lot of people, myself included, thought that at the end of this movie we would have crazy things happening, such as displacement of villains, displacement of superheroes.
But you could. I mean, that honestly could be part of it, right?
Yeah, we don't know the full extent, but like the
maybe Vulture got pulled in somehow.
The reason I don't
to a
necessarily
different
think that's the case is because one of the big implications of the end scene of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Venom, Tom Hardy's character, shows up in the MCU. By the end of this movie's first end credit or post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, he's gone. He's gone back to his world with a little bit of his goo.
Well, we
does that-
assume he's gone back to his world.
Well, he
does
had
that
the
work?
same magical.
It was the same. It was the
Same
same
magical thing,
animation
yeah.
as the other people being sent back. Quote
Yeah,
unquote.
no, but we're assuming they are, the spell worked and they did go
True.
back. We don't actually see anything.
We're not confirmed,
land
correct.
back.
Right. It
They're
could
actually
be-
in Kang's like jail cell.
Yeah.
But I do.
like
again, if we want to go back to the nitpicks, like, how does a spell forget a piece of like him? You know what I mean? Like with the Venom?
I know this is a stretch. So me and Ravi had a little conversation about this, and this is a huge stretch. But the end of Venom, the symbiotes transcend the multiverse. They can
that's right,
communicate
that's
across space and time.
So
The
they
hive
wanted
mind.
to be left.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. The whole point of that end
just
credit scene
held on?
was just to get that little bit of Venom
yeah.
in the world, so that you can do Venom in the MCU. Maybe, I don't know.
I assume
know.
that so they could do Venom in the MCU or with like the
Tom
Spider-Man
Holland's.
Tom Holland movies.
Well, it's just weird though. Like, I get why they did it, but like, it just feels like it feels like like
Right.
where there's always like there's that saying like work smarter, not harder.
Sure.
This is a clear case of where they worked a lot harder, and they didn't have to work. They could have been smart about it.
I think it goes back to what we talked about, where we said that movies are made to make money.
what?
And,
I'm still shocked by this
and look,
revelation.
the reason you put that after credit scene in Venom was to tease people that he's going to be in this movie.
It's just a marketing stunt.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
a marketing
because
stunt.
you have a big audience there, and you can get more of that audience into that if you connect them somehow. And that's the little connection. It was never going to be anything like he's the sixth villain of the other villains that showed up. It was always, to me, it always felt like they were always going to do like a.
And just to confirm though, so everyone is everyone here a believer that the reason Venom Tom Hardy was able to get into the MCU is because Carnage and the Hive Mind knew who Peter Parker.
The Venom, the symbiote hive mind knows
Recognized.
Spider-Man.
From Toby's Venom.
Venom. Gotcha. And okay, that works. And then in terms of like the marketing aspect of things and connecting stuff, one thing that bothered me, and I don't understand it, Lego and Lego Star Wars. I know that the Death
They're
Star
selling the toy.
is that what it was? Because like I know, like remember, there's the in the first Spider-Man movie,
Oh right, yeah, the Death Star.
Ned plays with the Death Star and drops it, and they bring the Death Star back. But there's a scene.
The Death Star in this one, it's a gag.
There's this scene, yeah, but there's also a scene there when he has the little Palpatine figure at the end.
Yeah.
And it's Palpatine with his lightning bolts. Is there some significance with it being Palpatine?
No, it's just saying
or?
he took that piece of the Lego from the
But why
apartment.
Palpatine?
Because Palpatine didn't believe there was good in Vader, but Luke did, and he brought it out. And that Peter Parker saw the good in
That was his
villains,
journey.
and he brought them
Man,
out.
that's brilliant.
But that's the wrong character. It should have been Luke or
Yeah,
Vader
it
then,
should've been
not
Luke.
Palpatine.
I looked at it like he's shooting
electricity.
lightning, like Electro.
I think it was like Electro's my favorite.
Yeah, he's like, I like that guy.
It's like that guy fucks.
That's like if I was like really nitpicking and like diving, that's my
Your nitpick?
That's my nitpick.
So Ravi's
Do
like,
it.
because of that, this is worse.
Yes.
Than
Spider-Man 3.
Last of the Jet.
Return the Last of the Jedi.
Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
Wow,
Whatever
why-
the fuck
why
that
we
movie is.
collectively forget? It's because we're tired.
It's a stupid movie.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
Should we talk about the Devil of Hell Kitchen? The Devil of Hell's Kitchen.
Is there a lot to talk about? He shows up, he catches a rock, he says he's a good lawyer. The
Well,
end.
Should we talk about another spoiler from Hawkeye?
I just want to say this. If you are going to have Disney characters and you're going to have Sony characters and you're going to have Netflix Marvel characters, fuck it. Why not just bring in an X-Men from 20th Century Fox? You know what I'm saying? Just fuck it. Just
No,
have
better.
Wolverine show up.
Have Patrick Stewart show up.
Well,
But then, hold on. Patrick Stewart, half of him is wearing Xavier, the other half is wearing like a Starfleet costume. And it's just like, fuck it.
Oh, man.
Well, Patrick Stewart has confirmed he's talked to Kevin Feige before. Kevin Feige has asked him to like be in MCU Marvel.
It's like one more movie.
And he's been like, no, I think with the ending of Logan, I'm retired, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, he's got Picard to work on. Much better property.
Oh boy, well, he
that with a straight face.
He chose incorrectly.
He's an old man.
But Picard though is a character that Patrick Stewart has said multiple times that he very much enjoys that character.
Right.
I don't know if he necessarily
He
loves Xavier.
He loves Xavier, but I think the reason he is reluctant to do it is because he loved the
The
wrap
ending.
up of the character in Logan. And
Right.
he's like, I feel like we told the story really well. I thought it was a really nice ending for that character. And he's like, I just don't think there's anything else left to do with this character. Now, I'm sure if they double the pay that they offered him initially, he'll do it because clearly
$1 billion.
Disney doesn't have a budget restraint for anything. So
No.
I think they could really, like, if they really wanted to, they could get him.
It'd be interesting, I think. I don't know. I like. It's hard. The X-Men, I think, are difficult to put in the MCU. I'm curious. Like, we
Yeah,
know that potentially
sure.
it's coming, but I think it's difficult because there's such a big, rich history with the X-Men and specifically with the Xavier School that doesn't. It's not just one 10-year period, right? It starts really at the beginning with Magneto and Xavier, and it's kind of tricky, I think, to throw that into the MCU right now and then pretend like there was this
It's
history
not
already.
going to happen right now. This is how I think they're going to do
Phase
it.
5?
Yeah, this fourth phase is obviously about like the multiverse and these walls cracking, and we're going to lead to some type of like multiverse war, right? Where you're going to have all these different versions of characters. You're going to be able to bring everybody back. You're going to get evil Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr. You can bring back Chris Evans as different, bring back Scarlet, bring back everybody. Bring back Eric Bana as the original
If you can have three
Hulk.
If you can have three
Banner.
if you can have three Spider-Men, you can have three Hulks.
That's true, and they have
You
been
could
three.
you could literally do anything. Like think about this movie
Edward
on
Norton as well.
steroids, right? So
Do you think like Kevin Feige, like he looked at Endgame and there was all these glory team up shots and they did it. They had everybody come together and he's like, what's better than a big team up? Multiple team ups of the same characters.
But anyway, the whole multiverse world will lead to like a universal kind of like reset type of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like what the Arrowverse did with their big crisis, where you had the big multiverse thing and it reset and everything was on like the same Earth. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's going to happen, and then like you'll have mutants within the universe, and then I think Phase 5 will be a lot of like Avengers versus X-Men.
Do you think though, like you say
government versus non-regulated?
You
mutants.
say like Phase 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the multiverse, and if there is a multiverse war, do you think that actually gets wrapped in Phase 4? Or do you think it's like what we've seen with Thanos, where it took 3 phases to get to that big battle, right? It took 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just a simple phase 4.
I think the multiverse is always going to be a thing now, right?
Yeah.
I think there will be like an event that changes shit up, essentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. Real quick, let's get into bold predictions. Specifically, we all made bold predictions around what we would see in this movie, Spider-Man No Way Home. Krishna, you get to the pleasure of going first. You said Kingpin will show up in Spider-Man all the way home.
And Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
All the way home. And
Neither of those things happened.
neither of those things happened. Kingpin did not show up.
I will say
Daredevil did.
Daredevil did, and
Yeah.
that made me happy. By the way, there's only 5 villains in this one, so it's not Sinister Six.
No,
That's why I
'cause-
called it the Spidey Six. That was the joke because Spider-Man is the sixth. You guys missed a lot of my jokes.
Yeah, that's why it wasn't that good.
No, it's because you guys just you
I'm
need to
sleep deprived.
educate yourself.
I'm sleep deprived.
I
Have you
said
taken the GED test?
No.
no. I said domestically and globally, this will be the new box office king. At the taping of this podcast, which is Friday morning, day after, obviously the Thursday night preview release. So far, it's made roughly $50 million domestically. It is not the new Thursday night box office open king. It's, I believe,
queen.
second to Avengers Endgame
okay.
right now.
That makes sense.
So
Even though the
mine
queen
still
in
could
chess is more
happen
powerful.
because I was talking the general global.
Yeah, there's a lot
Box
of
office.
you did a weenie prediction.
At least I didn't say someone will die.
I didn't either.
You didn't. Arjuna said this is a disappointment. We'll get live action Miles Morales.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Both of those were thankfully. Half thankful. Like the disappointing part.
Yeah.
I wish we got the live action Miles Morales.
We did get a nod. We did get the nod.
We did,
obviously,
yes,
from
Jamie Foxx.
Foxx's Electro, but yeah. We have in Homecoming. There was definitely obviously you had Miles's uncle in the movie.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Do we? I guess if we want to continue this theme of bold predictions,
Yes.
what bold predictions do you guys have for Spider-Man in general? Now, it could be across the Spider-Verse. It could be a made-up Spider-Man. It could be whatever. But it has to be around Spider-Man.
I think the MCU version of Peter Parker will die, and they will do Miles Morales. That is what.
See, this guy over here with somebody dying. What's wrong with you? Who hurt you?
No, I think it's, no. I think it's gonna go. Krishna, I think, said it best. I think they're gonna continue the thread of him saying goodbye to all these characters, right? And so there's 2 things you can do. You either do a bunch of movies where he never sees any of these people again, or you kill him and he's never able to like meet them and see them again, right? And I think they're going to do the latter. And the way you do that is you do Miles Morales, right?
Do you think though, like Marvel and Disney have? I don't want to say the balls, but do you think they have the
Cojones.
I don't know, like Tom Holland brings them a lot of money. He's he is becoming one of the faces of the MCU.
Yeah.
Granted, the last face of the MCU, they were like, bye Tony Stark, but that's different. Like that's an older actor.
Sure.
Tom Holland being such a babyface young actor.
He's got decades
Holland has said, though, he does not want to play Spider-Man forever. He talked about, if I'm playing Spider-Man in my 30s, I did something wrong. He did a recent interview where he's like, I kind of want to take a break from acting, but get married, have kids, have a family and everything. So he's already hinting at that, like, I'm not doing this forever. And I feel like he's already kind of trying to prep the audience of audience. Guys, Spider-Man is coming to an end for me. This is not like, I don't have like 8 more movies. I have maybe a couple more movies.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't think my bold prediction then is going to say our Juice bold prediction is half accurate in the sense that this Peter Parker version will end, but I don't think it will be a death situation. I think it potentially could be I am no longer Spider-Man or something, but I don't think it's going to be a flat out like Peter dies in someone's arms. Either that or they do it off camera, which would be worse, honestly. Krishna, do you have a bold prediction?
It's not very bold. I think it's just
bold or bald?
It's a cold prediction.
bold. It's a cold one, I would say. There will be more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, and the next one will be Venom. The next one will just be Venom. And they will bring back the Toby dance in it.
Venom is life.
Venom is live. And then in that movie we'll have Tom Holland's Venom versus Tom Hardy's Venom. The Tom versus Tom. Oh man, Tom battle.
Now we just to put kind of like a disclaimer on this. We're doing this podcast immediately following us seeing Spider-Man. In the coming weeks, there's going to obviously be the wrap up of Hawkeye, the series. There is going to be, other trailers and content. Like we didn't even talk about the Doctor Strange trailer that's come. Maybe
that's
shown.
Our next pod. We could honestly do an entire pod.
We very much could, but for the sake of not making this a 4 or 5 hour long podcast, I think we will kind of keep it contained to just what we saw, and give ourselves like time to process. So with that, we are going to ask that question. Ask that question. Cure ass. Cure that ass.
Cure that ass.
Cure that ass.
God, so many good lines.
He had a great.
Arjuna, you were the youngest, therefore you go first.
Krishna was Spider-Man. No Way Home. Good.
Yes.
And where do you rank it in live action Spider-Man?
It's the best. I think that's.
Wow,
the best. Yeah, definitely. No, I'm saying that 2 or 3 hours after seeing it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you brought back all of the Spider-Man, and it was great. So
Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the best.
I wanted
Honestly,
Jake Johnson's Peter Parker from Into the Spider-Verse.
Actually, that would have made it perfect. Yeah, there's nothing really much more to say. It was incredible. Ravi, was Spider-Man No Way Home good for you?
Yes, it was definitely good. I will, like I said, I teared up a little bit. I did not think I would feel this many emotions, which is to me weird because, as Arjuna pointed out earlier, with that big revelation, studios make movies for money.
That's true.
What? So that's it. It's nice to realize that films can still like give an emotional reaction. So like props there. I will say though, I wouldn't say this is the best Spider-Man movie. Live action. I will still say that the very first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, because what I remember distinctly with that movie in terms of what I felt, because I saw that when I was 10 to 11, 12 or whatever.
Sure.
And that was, to me, that was truly the kickoff of we have figured out how to make
superhero movies,
and we figured out how to make them.
X-Men didn't do it for you?
No. Interesting and good. So that one's still, to me, the best Spider-Man out there.
Spider-Man.
Arjuna, thank you for your time, as always. Glad you were able to sit through this movie and not get sick.
I mean,
that was a pleasure.
I think it's just...
I made sure I had water this time, too.
I honestly think it was Eternals, and it was the quality of the movie.
Oh, man.
That was a good movie.
But Arjuna, was Spider-Man No Way Home the end of the Tom Holland trilogy and the start of Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige fixing their relationship? Good.
Yes, and that title was also good.
Please don't sue me.
And I think this is the best live action Spider-Man, and I just want to shout out Into the Spider-Verse. I think without the success and what that movie did, this movie doesn't get made. So shout out to that movie.
That's a good point.
I think it proved to Sony and to audiences that you could do multiple Spider-Man, and then they said, all right, let's do it on the big screen.
We'll do it live.
Right.
We'll do it on the live screen.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
And with that is going to do it for us here at Was It Good. As always, you can find us on social media, on Twitter at Was It Good, on Instagram and on TikTok at Was It Good Pod. We do these pods live on YouTube at youtube.com/wasitgood. We will have a new pod coming out next week, so be sure to follow us on the socials to find a link or whatever.
Bye.
Because that's how that works, right?
Bye, Felicia.
And remember, Venom is life.